I'm Brendan from Bit by Bit, and welcome to The Shit, also known as the Pacific Northwest, more specifically, the mountains and valleys of Oregon, where you take on the role of a drifter, Deacon St. John. He, along with his best friend Boozer, take on the Freakers, zombie-like creatures who used to be human, and whose numbers have quickly risen into the billions through an aggressive virus. These Freakers pose a large danger to the remaining population, and threaten to drive the rest of human race into extinction. This isn't the only thing that Deacon struggles with, however. He is also strongly haunted by the loss of his wife, Sarah. Let's start the actual review off with a few more details about our main character himself. He's one part biker badass, one part caring friend, and one part aggressive masturbator who's not afraid of a little dirty talk.
Bunch of murderous sons of bitches. You like to set up ambushes?
I know where you're at!
Kinks and fetishes aside, he's actually a great character who is well written. He develops deep friendships during the story, while never forgetting the hardships that weigh on him constantly. This often leads to sudden anger and irrational decisions. This is the reason that the voice acting during fights is oftentimes very sensual.
You like stabbing him in the back, huh? That right? You like this?
One of the biggest parts of Deacon's personality is his code to protect the weak. When he sees someone in need, he always does his best to help them out, even if it might cost him his own life in the process. Sam Witwer does a fantastic job portraying Deacon, casting aside the overbearing anger, and overall gives an exemplary performance that makes you want to keep playing. A story, though, can't be made without lovable supporting characters and well-written villains. However, without spoiling anything, I can really only mention one supporting character, the most important one, Boozer, your best friend before and during your life in the shit. Is always there for when you need him, and will back you up even if he knows that it may not be your brightest idea. It also makes it easier to live with the freaks when you have someone to bust your balls and cheer you up. As for the other major side characters, they are well written, which is unsurprising considering how well they portrayed Deacon. The voice acting is also impressively delivered, with one or two exceptions.
Hold on, I'm coming.
You're gonna die out here. I know of a camp where it's safe.
What camp? It's camp? Where? Where? Show me. I'll go.
The villains in this game are not on par with the expectations of a Sony exclusive, but they are believable enough to make you want them dead. As for Freakers, the AI is well developed, and they intelligently try to flank you and take any route to make you their next meal. The human enemies have a less developed AI, and tend to make stupid mistakes that no human would ever realistically do. For example, while playing through the game, I've had a few instances where the enemies I was fighting decided to take cover in a place that left them completely open to a bullet. As a whole, characters are generally well written, and the voice acting is delivered adequately, with some standout performances. Moving on from the characters, our next topic is the game's world. The first area to explore is filled with trees and winding dirt roads. This forest provides a nice starting point that isn't more than you can handle right away. Without spoiling too much, the other areas are beautifully crafted and feature a well-made dynamic weather system, including snow that builds onto itself realistically. Individual to each area, there are camps where you can do things like turn in freaker ears for bounties, which earns you some cold hard cash, refuel your bike, purchase ammo and guns, and a few other things. Each camp is different in its own way, with some offering different services than others. You can also get jobs from camp leaders, which are usually either killing or capturing someone for a bounty, or taking out a dangerous camp nearby. Although repetitive, these jobs can be fun. While navigating your world, you can do several side activities. Some of these are hordes, which can provide drastically different experience based on the number of freakers. They require a lot of strategy, thought, and ammo, and can be a huge threat to you if you take them lightly, even after the end of the game. I love this game's world a lot, and it's definitely worth riding around and taking everything in between activities. Next up is the graphics. Days Gone is a bit of a mixed bag here, but my comments are mostly positive. Deacon's model is impressively rendered, to the point where you can see every expression and facial feature in extreme detail. In my opinion, he's one of the most realistic video game characters I've ever seen. Trees and other landscapes are good, but do look soft at times. I've been playing on the PS4 Pro at 4K resolution, and I've gotta say, the colors really pop. The sharpness and detail are impressive. I don't know much about the regular PS4 version, but I can assume it looks almost as stunning. The only real problems with the graphics are the occasional soft textures, which are mostly on buildings and roads, which could have used more detail and polish. There's also a good bit of texture pop in, which can make things very fuzzy until textures load in. The weather in the game is beautiful. The reflection of the water from the rain and the snow shimmering in the sun really makes you feel like you're experiencing the weather. Great graphics mean nothing if it isn't paired with the sounds to match, and the sounds in Days Gone, for the most part, match up very well. Weather effects such as snow and rain sound really good. However, guns can be pretty hit or miss. Some guns sound perfect, while others at times sound like throwing a can against a wall. The bike sounds good, but there's a rather common glitch where the bike makes no sound as you're driving. But this could be fixed with future patches. Freakers also sound frightening, as they should be, and a huge horde of them sounds even more terrifying. There is, however, one very irritating thing about the sound. In the game, you have a radio where people can contact you about jobs and missions. There's the normal dialogue, and everything sounds great. That is, if they get to finish. If they don't, the conversation replays from the start, over and over, as many times as it takes until they can finally get to the end of it. Doing something as simple as killing a zombie or looting a corpse is enough to restart the conversation, so it forces you to basically sit still unless you want to hear a conversation enough to memorize it. For the most part, the sounds are realistic and pair well with the graphics, but having characters repeat themselves constantly is a huge hit to the amount of fun you can really have playing Days Gone. From the well-written story, exploring on your bike while taking in the apocalyptic scenery, and mowing down endless freakers and giant hordes, there's a lot of fun to be had with Days Gone. Pop-ins and frame rate drops do affect the fun of the game, but as of the time of this review, many glitches have been fixed from launch. I found myself completely immersed in this world, and honestly, I couldn't put it down. There were times that I would binge it for almost the entire day and not be bored for a second of it. But this is coming from someone who loves the zombie trope. Now, who's this game for? Well, to cover the obvious, people who love zombie games. But this game covers a pretty large spectrum of genres. You've got your action, where you're running from a horde of freakers and your adrenaline is pumping. You've got horror, where you could be walking through a cave with a dimly lit flashlight, with no clue where your enemy could be coming from. You've got survival, complete with tense ammo management, and crafted items that run out pretty quickly. It can basically cover any game genre you could think of, so I think it could give everyone a little taste of what they like, or look for in a game. My verdict, if you love zombie games and don't mind glitches, this is an absolute buy. It's fun without being too repetitive, and you have a lot of content to sink your teeth into. But if you're not too big into zombie games, this game probably won't change your mind. This game took me roughly 30 to 40 hours to beat, and afterwards, it left me wanting more. To me, that's a good thing. I'm excited for a possible future sequel, and I can't wait to dive back into the apocalyptic world of Days Gone.